Hi friends, welcome to Dia's tutorial. In this video, we are going to see about the dislocation of shoulder joint or the glenohumeral joint. And before going into the video, if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, don't forget to subscribe it. First, we will see about the anatomy of the joint in short. The shoulder joint is formed by the articulation between the head of the humerus and the glenoid cavity of the scapula. Okay, it is a synovial joint. We know that it is a synovial joint of ball and socket variety, and it has 3 degrees of freedom. That is, the movements which are occurring at the shoulder joint are flexion, extension, abduction, adduction, and internal and external rotation. Before knowing about the dislocation of shoulder joint, we have to know about the instability of the shoulder joint. We know that shoulder joint is the most unstable joint of the body because the glenoid cavity is too small to hold the head of the humerus in position. As the glenoid cavity is too small to hold the humerus in place, the head of humerus is not stable with the glenoid cavity. Okay, so this causes the instability. So if there is a mild instability, then there will be pain. Pain will be there especially during the movements, when we do some movements. Pain will occur due to the stretching of the capsule. The capsule is stretched as the head of the humerus will move in any direction without an actual displacement. So there will not be any displacement. But as there is a instability, there will be the stretching of the capsule which causes the pain. In severe conditions or in severe instability, there will be abnormal movement. The head of the humerus will move abnormally, and there is also subluxation of the joint. Instability is also based on the direction in which the head of the humerus moves. Like in unidirection, it moves in a single direction, bidirectional instability, then multidirectional instability, where it moves anterior, posterior, and also inferiorly. Now we are seeing how the dislocation occurs. The dislocation is resulted from the fall on the outstretched hand with the shoulder abducted and externally rotated. So when we fall with the outstretched hand and the shoulder is abducted and externally rotated, it results in the shoulder dislocation, and also either due to a direct force which pushes the humeral head out of the glenoid cavity. If the force is on the front of the shoulder, in front of the shoulder, then it pushes the head posteriorly. So this causes the posterior dislocation. There are two types of dislocation: anterior and posterior dislocation. So there are two types of dislocation: anterior dislocation and posterior dislocation. The shoulder dislocation is common in adults. Okay, it is more common in adults and it is rare in children. The anterior dislocation results from the head of the humerus will come out of the glenoid cavity and it lies anteriorly. Okay, whereas in posterior dislocation, the head of the humerus will come out from the cavity and it lies posteriorly here. In anterior dislocation, there are subtypes based upon the position of the head of the humerus dislocated. So there are three subtypes, that is the preglenoid, subcoracoid, and the infraclavicular. Okay, so in preglenoid, the head of the humerus lies in front of the glenoid cavity. So the head lies in front of the glenoid cavity in preglenoid. Okay, in subcoracoid, the head of the humerus lies below the coracoid process of the scapula. So where it lies? Below the coracoid process of scapula. And in infraclavicular, the head of the humerus lies below the clavicle. Okay, here it lies below the clavicle. So these are the three subtypes in the anterior dislocation. And other than the anterior and posterior dislocation, there is also inferior dislocation. It is a rare type. Here the head of the humerus dislocates inferiorly. This inferior dislocation is also referred as luxation erecta. And now we are gonna see about the injuries or the lesion caused because of the dislocation of the shoulder. So first is the Bankart lesion. Bankart lesion is because of the anterior dislocation of the shoulder. Here it is the injury to the anterior inferior glenoid labrum. So the glenoid labrum is injured in the anterior inferior aspect. Okay. In more severe cases, even a part of the bone is injured in the anterior inferior aspect of the glenoid labrum, known as bony Bankart lesion. The next is the Hill sac lesion. Here there is a depression in the humeral head in the posterior lateral aspect. Okay, this is caused because of the hit or the strike on the humeral head by the glenoid cavity. Hill sac lesion is a depression on the humeral head in the posterior lateral aspect. And in some chronic cases, when the head of the humerus constantly dislocates, then there occurs the rounding of the anterior glenoid rim. So here the glenoid rim is rounded off. Okay, and then associated injuries are the fracture to the greater tuberosity, then the rotator cuff tears, and there is a chondral damage. Chondral damage means damage to the cartilage. Then the diagnosis. Here the patient will come with a history of fall on a outstretched hand, and he will have pain and inability to move the shoulder. Okay, and the shoulder will be in a abducted position, and then the round contour of the shoulder will be lost and it will look somewhat flattened. Can you see in the picture the right shoulder is somewhat flattened than the left shoulder? Can you see it? Next is the Dugas test. In this test, the patient is asked to touch the opposite shoulder. But in case of dislocation, the patient will be unable to touch the opposite shoulder. Next is the Hamilton ruler test. In this, if we keep a ruler vertically, then the acromion process and the lateral condyle of the humerus touches. So this is because of the dislocation of the shoulder joint. Then we have the X-ray in the anterior posterior aspect, and in case of a posterior dislocation there will be a loss of external rotation and it cannot be viewed exactly in a X-ray. So a CT scan will be useful, and also we have to examine in X-ray properly. Very carefully the X-ray should be viewed. So these are the diagnosis criteria. Next is about the treatment of shoulder dislocation. Here we have two approaches. The first is the Koch's maneuver. In this, the first step is the elbow will be at a right angle. Elbow is flexed at a right angle, and now the traction is applied to the long axis of the humerus. So this is the first step. Second step is the external rotation. The arm is externally rotated. After the external rotation, the arm is adducted. So can you see in the photo? The arm is adducted along with external rotation. Then the fourth step is the internal rotation. In internal rotation, the hand is made to touch the opposite shoulder. So this is the process. These are the steps in the Koch's maneuver. So what are the four steps? First is the traction. Second is the external rotation. Third is adduction. Fourth is internal rotation. Okay, and this is the most common method. Next we have the Hippocrate maneuver. In this, the patient lies in supine position and in a semi-abducted arm. The therapist will have a firm and a steady pull, and he places his foot in the axilla against the chest wall. So the therapist will place his foot in axilla against the chest wall, and so that the head is placed back to the position where the foot acts as a fulcrum. So these are the treatment for the dislocation of the shoulder. Complications of the dislocation of the shoulder joint. There is early and late complication. In early complication, there is the injury to the axillary nerve. What muscle does the axillary nerve supply? It supplies to the deltoid muscle. So if there is an injury to the axillary nerve, it causes the paralysis of the deltoid. So what does it cause? It causes the paralysis of the deltoid muscle. And this can be identified by asking the patient to abduct the arm, and there will be no contraction of the deltoid muscle. Then we have the late complication. The shoulder joint is the commonest joint for the recurrent dislocation to occur, and we know that it is an anatomically unstable joint. And in some conditions, like example Marfan syndrome is a disorder of the connective tissue. So when the connective tissue is damaged, it makes the joint unstable. Okay. So due to unstable, recurrent dislocation occurs, and also inadequate healing after the dislocation, and it is also occurs in an epileptic patients. So this is it about the dislocation of the shoulder joint. I hope you all would have understood it. If you have any doubts or if you need any topics to be discussed, you can comment below. And if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, don't forget to subscribe it. Thank you for watching the video, and if you like this video, hit the thumbs up button.